go ahead and Google what BDO is going through right now with some of their alleged PE nightmare stuff. Anyways, that would be a whole different podcast.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's real bad. Like firm ending bad kind of stuff. Honestly, as unsexy as this sounds, most of our results, like the last action people take, is all from email marketing.
Interesting. Like a newsletter?
Or direct campaigns, like call to action. So we have a weekly newsletter that goes out that's, again, meant to be more informational and helpful. And then when we have an event go on, so we call it the Summit. So for the Summit 2026, there'll probably be 6 or 7 different key times where we do email campaigns that will be 6 to 8 emails within a week or 2 weeks time frame that is leveraging all of this awareness that we have to get people to actually take action.
Steven Jarvis, aka the least boring CPA, is on the show. First of all, thank you for coming through, and also thank you for bearing with me as we've been trying to do this now for I want to say like a solid 2 years. So welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you.
Yeah, happy to be here. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is going to be some good conversation. Long overdue. But for anybody that doesn't know who you are, can you give us like a 1-minute intro to Steven Jarvis?
Yeah, so I'm a CPA, and for about 10 years, that means whatever you think a CPA is supposed to be, and whatever that stereotype is, I probably fit it pretty well. And then about 4.5 years ago, I literally quit all of that, started my own company. I still do some stereotypical CPA things, and then I do a whole ton of stuff that I never thought I would do as a CPA.
That is awesome. Clearly you have a podcast, because that is the fastest, fastest well-trained response. No, that's great. I want to dive into some of that, but why don't we go back to the early days, to you graduating school and starting your career. What was your kind of early days like? Did you think you wanted to be a partner, like the traditional route? Like what did it all look like for you?
Oh, 100% I wanted to be a partner. That's what everyone told me I needed to do. Like if I wanted to like grow up and be a big kid CPA someday, I had to be a partner. Yeah. I became a CPA probably like a lot of people for super practical reasons. I was in college in 2008. I didn't think anyone was ever going to get a job again. Yep. My accounting class felt easier for me than it was for all my classmates, and there were jobs. And so, yeah, I mean, geez, right out of my first job out of college, my starting salary was $48K a year. I thought I had made it. Like, and so I totally picked the accounting profession for the job security, the stability, all those. It felt really safe to me. And then probably on about the first week of my first job in accounting, I was like, oh, I'm not like all of you. It just took me like 10 years to figure out what to do instead.
Yeah. Wow. That's, I resonate with all this tremendously. It's basically me. In fact, I graduated in 2010, I think just like you, right? You graduated in 2010. Yep. I was in school in those 2006 to 2010. So saw that. And yes, and much like you, my starting salary was $51,000. So how exciting.
Yeah, but like you're in New York, so I think cost of living adjusted, I was probably making more than you. That's really important for us to nerd out on those things.
Oh, 100%. But fun fact, so my first offer was actually in New York, yes, for 55.
Okay.
55. But life turned a little bit for me in multiple ways. One of them was, so when I met my girlfriend, wife now, who ended up getting accepted to optometry school down in South Florida.
Oh, okay.
And I followed her there. And so I actually ended up getting that offer for 55 and then actually going, saying no to it and going back to my college, Rutgers, where I went, and like basically getting, going back to the recruiting flows of things and getting a job out down in Florida with EY. So that starting salary was $51,000. Yeah. So obviously cost of living adjusted. It wasn't that much less. I mean, it was obviously less, but not like as significant. So it still hurt to be at 51. But yeah, I too, just like you, felt like I made it with my $51,000 salary. And I too wanted to make partner.
Heck yeah.
But take me through, were you always in tax or were you in audit? What were you doing?
No, I think like a lot of people, I did a lot of things, and so it switched with kind of each firm I was at. To be totally honest, I started first in audit because I didn't like my tax class, and I just like everybody else. I mean, you're kind of expected to make a choice based on zero experience or really any good information.
Totally.
In my head, I thought, hey. Audits for me because I get to talk to more people, and I mean, I learned a ton from it. Lots of great experience. But yeah, right out of school, I moved to Denver, Colorado, because we thought it would be. I was married already. We thought it'd be a lot of fun, and it was. Denver was great, but we had just had our first kid, and traveling as much as I did with audit work. I mean, the firm I was at was, I'm sure these will all sound really unique. It was understaffed, and we were working way too much, and so it was kind of a fly out Sunday, fly home Friday, work all day Saturday, and fly out Sunday again for weeks on end.
Wow.
And so for some reason, my wife with our newborn child didn't love that arrangement. And so we're in Spokane, Washington now, which is where she's from, so we can be close to family. So I had started with a really small firm. And so when I moved, I had to find a new gig. They didn't have other offices. And so that's when I ended up with BDO, which is where I spent the longest stint of my career.
Cool. Yeah. Interesting. Just out of curiosity, how long did you spend in audit before you switched to tax? Was it just that one firm with the 1 year?
No, I did other audit work as well. Although even when I first switched firms, when I first started at BDO, I started in tax before I went back to audit for a while.
Oh,
yeah, and I've worked in several different industries, and so got to see a lot of different things.
Cool. Let me ask you about that transition from, it sounds like from audit to tax and then back to audit and then presumably back to tax. A lot of people ask me in DMs and in conversation, it's a big topic of a lot of folks who want to transition from audit to tax and are struggling with it because, obviously is the more years you spend in audit, people, you can't, it's tough to go from a manager in audit to fully transition into tax, because the pay and all that. Did you feel like you had a pay decrease at any point in time when you were transitioning between the two? Was there ever a time when you were like so experienced in audit that going to the tax space was challenging, and how did you get around that, if so?
It's definitely challenging. And I think, especially the way we're all raised in accounting, like we all really struggle with the idea of ever making less money than we made last year.
Yes.
Even if there's a better path to go down, like it's so ingrained in our heads. And like for you and I, who are quite a few years into this, looking backwards, like it's easy to see these things. Yeah. When you're brand new, it's almost impossible to see, because my first couple of years, I'd be curious what it was for you. My first couple of years, I thought I was getting these amazing raises and bonuses every year. Like again, like in retrospect, it's like, oh, it was enough to keep me kind of coming back for more. Like it was never like the compensation growth curve when you look back is like, oh, you're really just hoping you make it to partner for this like idea of someday I'm going to make a whole ton of money. So I'm getting off on a tangent there. The only time I took a step back in my compensation was when I quit and started my own company. And that's part of being an entrepreneur. Like you go from someone signs a paycheck every 2 weeks and it just magically hits your bank account to now, oh, I'm responsible for all of this. Yeah. And that's super scary right at first, because again, you've been told your whole career you should get a raise every year and you should get a bonus. You should see these incremental changes. But if you want dramatic change, you need to take dramatic action, and that can be taking a reduction in pay or a period where you're uncertain what your pay is going to be. And that's super scary, especially for those of us who got into accounting for stereotypical reasons.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's a ton, to your point, like there's a ton of people right now, that are really all gung-ho about entrepreneurship. I mean, I see it day in and day out on LinkedIn. It seems to be that, and I actually just had a post about it yesterday, but, it seems to me that the move now, people are like, forget this bullshit. I don't want to deal with this, career anymore, because all these firms are the same. So everybody is trying to think the best way to escape it, if you will, is to start your own firm. Yeah. I'm torn personally, like you could, so I personally think that if you're like 85% happy in your current job, like you're good. The entrepreneurship is not going to give you the extra 15. In fact, it may take away 30% because now you're going to be wearing a bunch of hats. But all of this to say that a lot of folks are saying, if they're in audit, they're asking me a lot of times, like, how do I get into tax? I want to learn tax because that's going to be easier to launch my own firm than like an audit background. What, as somebody who's been in both, would you like agree with that sentiment, or do you think that there is a way to go out on your own and audit background?
Oh, I would definitely not recommend to go out on your own and audit. Like there's so much more compliance and liability and scrutiny and all of those kinds of things. Don't go out on your own and audit. Also, and that's part of the reason I left, because when I worked at BDO, I worked in the SEC space, which is also a nightmare and tons of regulation that doesn't do any good for anybody.
Yeah.
But go ahead and Google what BDO is going through right now with some of their alleged PE nightmare stuff. Anyways, that would be a whole different podcast.
It's bad.
Yeah, it's real bad, like firm ending bad kind of stuff. So like we'll see how that all turns out. And full disclosure, I mean, I still know a lot of people there, a lot of great people there, just like any firm. Probably the exception, not the norm. But sorry, that's not your question at all. This will probably make make all the BDO people mad there. Let's make a lot of the tax people mad. That transition really isn't as hard as people think it is. Depending on what type of tax you want to go into.
True.
And I think the bigger problem is going from big firm mentality to either small firm or entrepreneurship. And either way, those can both be great options. Not everyone should be an entrepreneur. It took me literally 10 plus years to even be willing to take that risk. And there are days, thankfully it's the exception, not the norm. There are still days where I'm like, no, burn it all down. Like I'll go work at Walmart. Like it's fine.
Me too.
Because there's a whole different level of stress that comes with being a business owner. And so because if you're going to go out on your own and tax, you're not going to be doing, like you go out on your own, you're not going to be doing complicated multinational crypto derivative tax compliance. Like you're going to go and you're going to be doing individual tax, small business tax, like things that honestly, if you have a strong accounting background, whether it's tax or not, you can figure all that out. Like no offense
100%.
to the people who've been doing that stuff for decades, and no offense to the people who think that accounting is this mysterious thing that only a handful of us can do. It's not that hard.
No,
like you can figure it out. That's not the hard part of the business.
I agree 100%. And I think that, but to the point of the folks that are a little bit where, like, obviously if you've spent 10 to 12 years all in audit with zero tax background, like what are you going to do? Leave and then go figure out how to do a tax return? So to some of those folks, they could, and I think that they could. But to those folks, I say, just try, like, do it on the side for now. Maybe, like start learning how to do the tax work. Because for those folks that have 10 to 12 years, it's not realistic to go down to being a staff tax accountant, to learn the basics, even though they have 10 to 12 years of experience in public accounting.
I mean, this might feel blasphemous, and I promise I'm not paid or endorsed by them. But like, if you want to explore that change, pay the $250 and take H&R Block's online tax prep course.
True.
I mean, that's going to show you real quick. Like, here's where this stuff goes in the software. Like, you're going to jump, and you're going to see that all this other accounting stuff you did still applies to taxes.
That's
and
true.
You're right. Going from being manager, senior manager to like, I want to be a staff accountant, like that would be a tough transition.
Yeah.
Honestly, not undoable.
No, not undoable. Just the real sacrifice would be well, first of all, the challenge that a lot of folks are telling me is it's hard to find someone who will hire you into that role. So like, most bigger firms aren't going to make that switch for you if you have that much experience. So you got to go smaller. Yeah. And if you go smaller, a lot of those folks are scrambling for, people who have experience in tax. So like if you're a smaller firm owner or a mid-size you're looking for somebody to pick it up and run with it versus train them to learn. So that's a little bit of the challenge. And the most important to many people, accountants, especially us, is the money. If you were a manager or if you were even a senior with 5 to 8 years experience, you're probably making 80 to 100,000.
Yeah.
And if you're going to restart your career with a tax background, you're probably going to be back down to 65, maybe 60, depending on the area.
Yeah. Geez, I can't hire anybody for less than 60 anymore.
Yeah.
Regardless of their level of experience. But I think that goes back to something you were commenting on before and you mentioned in there of, hey, if you're going to restart your career, I think as accountants, we're trained into this belief that every year it needs to get we need to make a little bit more, and never should it go backwards.
Yeah.
But if you are going to make a dramatic shift, you need to accept that you're going to take an immediate step down in pay, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And if you've got a clear path for where you're headed next, like that's okay. Like there isn't some public disclosure of, hey, Yuri took a step backwards in his pay. He's now an awful person. Like he can no longer be the fun CPA.
It's all in our
like,
heads.
Yeah, it's all in our heads. And that's just because it's all in our heads doesn't mean it's not real. But you got to find other people who've been through it. And then at some point, you're just going to have to do a big, scary thing. Like that's just all there is.
Yeah, I agree. There's some really good points. And I think that somebody who's listening and somebody who is in that juncture in their life and maybe they're considering making that switch, you just got to humble themselves a little bit. It's only for a little while. Learn what you can and do your thing.
Well, let's go back to a comment you made before. Yeah. Like you said, like, hey, if you're 85% happy in what you're doing, maybe just keep doing that. Like I think that was a really insightful thing that people probably need to say more often. Yeah. Like the internet is a terrible place. Social media is the worst form of communication we have because it gives us this delusion that everyone's got it figured out.
Amen.
Like you shouldn't, like, I'm not trying to say like, hey, give up and just concede that your life's not going to be good, but every job out there has downsides. So if you are telling yourself that I can only leave my stable accounting job for perfection, like you're so misguided. It's ridiculous. Like if you can get to 85% satisfied with your pay, with the people you work with, the work you do, like you're doing better than most of the world. Like enjoy that.
Yeah, we dwell as a society, and again, I blame social media fully on it, but we as a society 100%. Dwell so much on that 15% negativity and unhappiness that, you know, we want to escape it and go into something that's going to make us happy. And I, perhaps along with a few other folks, you know, doing the posting may be a part of the issue somewhat, in the sense that, you know, myself, Logan, Graf, you know, Jason Stats, a few of the other folks out there talking on the social media space about entrepreneurship and accounting may make it seem easy, may make it seem like it's the, you know, best way to go. But again, like the things that we don't see, we try to talk about it. I try to talk about it. Is like the hats that we have to wear, the stress of the everyday, the doing a million things. Like some days you just want to go, okay, just have somebody else figure this out, you know, and I'll just do my job and get paid. But obviously then there's not as much flexibility. So you know, that's kind of what the people don't see. And then everybody is just all gung ho on the firm ownership, and they end up going back, and that's all right. You know, go back, but. Yeah, that's kind of my take on that whole thing. So I'm with you. Take me to that day. You're at CLA. You are a director. You said I think you kind of mentioned that you were going into a meeting to discuss becoming a partner.
Yeah, so I had when I was at CLA, which had a great time there, I had the good fortune of, I mean, at the time, I think CLA was 8,000 employees. So like top 10, not probably top 10 somewhere in there as far as accounting firms in the nation. The chairman of the board of the entire firm sat in my office.
Oh, wow.
So I got recruited to CLA, and then the partners who recruited me basically immediately left the firm to go do other things. And so when that, like, I'm thinking, shoot, like I made a change because I wanted to get away from SEC work and I wanted a clear path to partner. And I thought I had that. And then the partners who recruited me quit. And so kind of, I put on my big boy pants one day and walked into the chairman of the company's office and said, hey, listen, here's what just happened to me. I'm not sure who to go to. Can you be my mentor? Wow. And he was generous enough to say, yes, like, yeah, you ended up in a situation that like beyond your control. Yeah, I'll be your mentor. So I would meet with him like on a monthly basis, That's awesome. Which just so much gratitude for the time he put into that. So I'm there for about 2 years. I was hitting all of my numbers as far as revenue I needed to be generating, things I needed to be doing. Like it was as close to a slam dunk as you could get. Like in February, so the end of February, this was 2021, the end of February, I was already on track to hit my growth number by the end of like March or April for the entire year for me to meet my commitment that I needed to hit to be able to become a partner. So I just had kind of like a recurring meeting scheduled with chairman of the board to really, I mean, kind of tick the last boxes on, yep, you're going to become a partner at the end of this year. Walked into his office. He gets this big smile on his face. He's so excited I'm there. He sits down on the other side of the desk and basically is like, "Oh, Steven, I'm so excited for this conversation." I'm like, "Scott, I'm really sorry, but this conversation is not going to go the way you thought it was." And I mean, it was an intense conversation because, I mean, even 3 weeks, my decision from, hey, I'm going to be a partner of this firm, which was, I mean, that's your dream as a CPA. I'm going to be a partner at a national firm. Like at the beginning, literally on February 1st, I was completely committed. I'm going to be at CLA forever. I'm going to be a partner. I'm going to make all this money. This is going to be great. Like February 5th or so, my now business partner had texted me. He happens to be my brother as well. I've got a couple business partners. One of them is my brother. He texts me and says, "Hey, I know you're about to become a partner and this is a big deal, but we should talk before you do." And so got on a call with him. Basically, we talked through it because he's my brother and like, let's humor him. Yeah. I got off the call thinking, yeah, I'm going to go be a partner. And then it was actually, I told my wife about it and she said, hey, like the goal all along isn't really to become a partner. It's to have the flexibility both financially and with your time to do all these other things. Like if this business is a chance to do that, why wouldn't we try? And then over the course of 3 weeks, mapped out a plan for creating a company, quitting my job, all of those things. And then I walked into that meeting. So this wasn't what I was expecting either, but I'm putting in my notice.
Ooh. And wow, I mean that's huge. That's very interesting, man, because you know, people look for that moment so much and it's interesting how those 3 weeks leading up to it pivoted so much. What was his reaction like? What you said, it got intense and everything. Was he trying to dissuade you from it, or was he like somehow trying to keep you like? What did that go like?
It was interesting. He definitely was trying to dissuade me from doing it, but I don't think out of any sort of like selfish motivation for the company. Like I mean, he'd been mentoring me for almost 2 years at that point. Yeah. Like he was genuinely concerned about me as a person. Like hey, you have this opportunity right in front of you that so many people work their whole life for. Like it's right there, and you're gonna walk away from it to do this other thing that's completely uncertain. And he wasn't rude or mean about it. And honestly, he was right. Yeah. That 3 weeks wasn't me convincing myself that, hey, we've got it figured out and we're all going to be gajillionaires. Yeah. Really, that 3 weeks was, okay, we've got enough of a plan where I'm going to regret having not tried. And if I get a year into this and it completely fails and I fall on my face, I will still feel good about having tried, and I'll go back to public accounting. Because that security blanket's still there. There's enough need for CPAs. I knew I wasn't walking out of like forever a job. Yeah. And so, he definitely, I don't know that he really tried to talk me out of it so much as like a few times was like, hey, have you really thought this through? Yeah.
I'm definitely with you on all those things. I didn't make it that far where the Holy Grail was in front of me. So great job in the time span that you've worked getting up there. And I mean, that says a lot. That's definitely not easy to do. But let's go to the next tranche of life. And so here you are. You do this thing. You give your notice. It's March 2021, which by the way was 4 months before I started my firm. So it's March 2021. Here you are. Talk to me about like those first, whatever you want, however long until you felt this was the right thing, or maybe you felt it right away. But talk to me about those first couple months or years or whatever it is.
Jeez, I will see if you can relate to this. I mean, I would have days where I felt like it was the best decision I ever made, and then I'd have days where it was like, holy hell, what did I do? Yes. And the number of those days have definitely really diminished, but every now and then I still have those days of like, wait, what? So that was the end of February. And so I didn't actually leave the firm until the end of March. I stayed for an entire month to help transition projects, all those kinds of things. And I told them that's how long I would be willing to stay. And if they wanted me out before then, like I totally got it. But we had a positive relationship. So they said, if you'll help transition these things, that'd be great. So I stayed on for another month. In that time, I was kind of like working in the background just on some of the things that we would be doing eventually. And it wasn't, I think we formally created the entity like the 1st of May. Yeah. We didn't have revenue until late June, early July, somewhere in there. Okay. And it wasn't even like directly tax related work, like, cause, my business partners are all financial advisors. And so
Cool.
really it wasn't just, hey, let's go create a tax firm. It was, let's create a resource for financial advisors to do more with tax planning. And so the first revenue the firm created was actually kind of resources for financial advisors of, here's how you can do more for your clients. And so by the following tax filing season, we were also doing tax prep, doing more stereotypical CPA things. But at this point, about a third of my revenue is tax work. About a third is kind of resources and education for financial advisors. And then the other third is an event that we host every year.
Cool. That's awesome. It's a pretty unique build out. I'm very interested in like kind of. So was it because I guess the other partners were financial planners? Like when you created that plan in those 3 weeks in February, as you were ramping up to lead, was it similar to what you're doing now in that plan? Like was it tied to the financial planners and all that kind of stuff, or did that evolve as you built it out?
No, out of the gate, it was all because my dad became a financial planner when I was a kid, so I was exposed to that industry.
Cool.
Never really interested in doing it myself, and so no, that was the whole motivation. Because if all I wanted to do was strictly CPA stuff, I would have just stayed at CLA. Like I wasn't bitter or mad or burnt out like directly at them by any means. And so it was that we were creating something different. That was the exciting part to me. I didn't want to just break out and start my own tax firm. I wanted to do something different. So on day one, I didn't really have the vision of, hey, we're going to do this huge event. But the split between doing tax work and then doing that kind of education and resources, like that was always part of the plan. And so I launched my podcast in May of 2021. That happened pretty quickly. Even by fall of 2021, I was speaking at financial planning industry conferences.
Cool.
And then I was also really leaning into LinkedIn as far as kind of like areas to expand the top of my funnel.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we probably started posting on. I feel like we started posting on LinkedIn around the same time. I want to say like right around.
Because I think I joined LinkedIn in like probably 2009, somewhere back in there. And then for the longest time, I was one of those people who would proudly tell you that I had met every person I was connected with on LinkedIn. Like I saw it as a directory, and I saw it as like a direct representation of people I knew.
Yes.
And that was really important to me. And I would clown on the people who had all these followers I'd never met, until I got to a point where I was like, oh, this is just different uses of the same tool.
Yeah.
So like when I used it as a directory, like that was fine. Now I want to use it as a content platform, as a way to disseminate information. And then I try to do, and I think you're the same way. Like I genuinely try to give out information that's valuable. Like, yes, of course I want you to pay me for more things, but I want my content, I want my podcast, I want my LinkedIn, I want my presentations. I want all of that to be valuable on its own, even if you never remember who I am.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's great. And interestingly enough, I mean, our trajectory is very similar. I just hit 20,000. I see you just fairly recently hit 20,000 followers on there. I have my own takes on this, but what is your relationship with social media, LinkedIn? I know, I know why you laugh. But share that with me, because I have my own takes on it. I'll share mine after you.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty convinced that social media is the worst form of communication that we have. And I had somebody make a joke one time that was like, "Hey, well, it's better than smoke signals." And like, I'm not sure it is. I'm really not sure it is. And the reason I say that so adamantly is that the keyboard removes all of the human connection. People are willing to say things online they would never say to your face. And sure, that comes in with like the aggressively negative stuff that people say, but it also comes in with the just sheer removed from reality takes on what life is like. And so people sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally, because I'm with you, there's probably times that I reinforce some of the negativity of social media because we're limited on the amount of attention span we have from people. So we have to get to the point really quickly. And so people misinterpret things I post all the time. That's very like the DMs and comments I get, people clearly misinterpret what I do. But it is a good tool for that top of the funnel, for getting awareness on things that we don't necessarily have another great format for. And so I'm completely invested in using LinkedIn because I hear from people really often about how much they appreciate my content, what they've learned from it. It's definitely led to business, like people paying for other things I do. And at this point, it's also a bit of a credibility thing. Like if you don't have a LinkedIn, it's kind of like, why not? Like in our space, at least. So I think I have an Instagram account. I think I have 12 followers. I usually post fitness things on there, but that's a whole different thing. It's mostly I'm not trying to become a fitness influencer. That's just like my own health and wellness journey. And so LinkedIn is really the only place I spend time. I don't have LinkedIn on my phone. I only do it on my computer. I mostly only do it in pre-assigned blocks of time. I get a little carried away sometimes. But the instant dopamine hits are terrible for us. LinkedIn, not LinkedIn specifically. Social media is garbage and should be torn out of the world. But nobody asked for my opinion on that.
I would agree with everything you said. It is. I mean, it really is a terrible communication medium. You're getting snippets. Obviously LinkedIn is a little bit better than some of the other ones. Instagram is all flashy and all that. But LinkedIn hits on a different aspect, which is a comparison aspect in the business sense.
Yeah.
So whatever you're working on, for me, everything on LinkedIn, everything that anybody will see is all an accident. It's all unintentional. I don't have a distinct plan of what I'm doing, which quite frankly, I'm realizing now more and more does have a cost to it. It's all, it's great to entertain some folks. It's great to post about the stuff that I post about. I'm all over the place and I don't have and that's my thing. Honestly, I feel like, I just don't have a thing. I just pick up the phone or whatever it is and post. But the flip side of that, and I think maybe, you could probably relate to that interestingly enough, is these follower accounts that just mean nothing.
Oh, absolutely nothing.
It's the silliest thing. Like people will say, "Oh my God, like wow, 20,000 followers. That's incredible. Like, congratulations. Like that's amazing." Yeah. It's like, try to ask someone of anything on an ask, and watch your 20,000 followers become like 5, or maybe 60, depending on how successful it is. And that actually relates and kind of blends into my next question to you, your events. So I put together, I've done 5 networking events on my own. Kind of fun conceptually, came all by accident, completely random.
Yeah.
But what was your first one? What was your first experience like putting that together? How did that idea come about? And what were some challenges that you incurred?
Yeah, so we do events in a couple of different ways. So the event I was referring to, like we host a conference for financial advisors every year, which started in 2023, mostly because we hated all of the other tax planning conferences we went to for financial advisors. The first year, we got started planning on it way too late. For a big conference, like hosted at an event center, like you need to be planning for at least a year ahead of time.
Yeah.
It was also mind-blowing figuring out how much that stuff costs. Like it is insane. Like you do an event with a hotel, which you have to at that scale, it is going to blow your mind. I'll never forget this. It was in Vegas.
Cool.
The first night, so it was in the desert. It's in September, so not crazy hot, but still in the desert. The hotel very generously kept bringing out bottled water for people, like crappy off-brand, like hotel brand, like wrapped water bottles, like the things that are like 68 cents at the gas station.
Yeah.
They were charging us $5 per water bottle.
Whoa.
And they just kept bringing more. And it wasn't anything malicious by our attendees, but like they would start a water bottle, they'd set it down somewhere. They'd be like, wait, is that mine or yours? Like, I'll just grab another one. It's no big deal. And we spent like $3,000 on water bottles in one night for like 80 people. Blew my mind.
Wow.
Anyways, that's getting off on tangents. So
like
for big scale events like that, there's so much work that goes into it. At this point, we have a third party events team that helps us with logistics. We have sponsors. Like this last year, we had 260 advisors there.
Wow.
And we add speakers and sponsors and team members. We had almost 300 people in the room. Next year, we outgrew that space. Next year, we'll have probably close to 350. And so that is a year-round commitment. The marketing, the advertising, the selling seats, selling sponsorships, and then making sure it's a good event. Oof, and so we spend all year prepping our audience for what they should expect there and how they're going to get the most out of it. And that comes through in the event itself, that we have a lot of people who come back every year. We have sponsors that come back every year. People are getting value out of it. And I talk about the event a little bit on social media, but you made the comment before, as soon as you ask for something, everything plummets.
Yep.
And so I use LinkedIn more for awareness, so that when I do other things, people remember who I am. And so honestly, as unsexy as this sounds, most of our results, like the last action people take, is all from email marketing.
Interesting. Like a newsletter?
Or direct campaigns like call to action. So we have a weekly newsletter that goes out that's again meant to be more informational and helpful. And then when we have an event go on, so we call it the summit. So for the summit 2026, there'll probably be 6 or 7 different key times where we do email campaigns that will be 6 to 8 emails within a week or 2 weeks time frame that is leveraging all of this awareness that we have to get people to actually take action.
That's very cool.
To fill a room with 300 people is a huge endeavor.
It's a tremendous. I mean, it was difficult enough for me to get 40 people to show up to my networking event, let alone fly and book conference and get rooms. What do you find? I mean, what did you find the most shocking, other than the water bottles, in your learning experience of setting up and planning a conference? And when was your first one again? Sorry, I meant
2023.
2023.
So the first year we had about 80 people there. This last year we had almost 300. So it's almost quadrupled in size.
Wow.
Which is super exciting. I mean, certainly lots of interesting things as you do events. One that always stands out to me is that everybody can do addition and no one can do subtraction. And so you'll, especially in a room, I mean, you probably get this even worse because CPAs are terrible about this kind of stuff. Like we can all do the easy math of, and so at our big conference, when I do networking events, like those are free to the people who attend.
Yeah.
When I do a big conference, geez, the tickets are $1,500 to $2,000. Like, it's expensive to put on events.
Yeah.
But then you'll have the people who will be like, wait a second, if there's 260 advisors here and you charge them this much, like, geez, Steven, you're making so much money off this event. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. The cost per person, like the cost of a breakfast and the hotel we did at this last year, it was a great hotel. They provided good food, but not like $50 per person for a breakfast. Like, I mean,
$50?
Oh yeah, easily. I'll have to go back and look. We probably spent over $10,000 in coffee in 2.5 days. Because you have no other options, like you have to do it through the hotel. So that kind of stuff is always mind blowing to me.
That is mind blowing.
But the choreography that goes on to make an event like that come off well is insane. And this goes on the list of things I never thought I'd do as a CPA. But I mean, at my event, like I'm one of the pretty faces there. Like most of my time is getting on stage and doing presentations. Yeah. But to present well, to put on that, like 2.5 days of quality material is a lot. I was on stage 7 or 8 different times, at least for an hour each time in 2.5 days. Like, that's a lot of work that goes into actually putting on a good event.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously the material itself, the PowerPoint presentation, like you can't, it has to really wow people, especially when folks are paying that much of $1,500 or $2,000 for a conference like that.
Well, and you mentioned it before, like that's what they're paying for the ticket. They've got flights, they've got hotel, like there's a big, and their time away from work. And so, so that puts a lot of pressure on the host to say, okay, I invited all these people here. I asked them to pay a lot of money, asked them to sacrifice their time. I better make sure they leave feeling like they got every dollar's worth and then a multiple of that.
Yeah. And that's why I actually asked this. My question was really driven out of my own, like I have my own desire. Like when I put together an event, I'm like, it better be amazing to the folks that come through. They're not paying $1,500, to come. But even when I charge 50 or 60 or 70 bucks, but more importantly for me is the sponsors. If somebody's willing to go out of their way and say, hey man, I'll support you. Here's $1,500 or here's $2,000. Like I am so keyed in on making sure that it's valuable to them.
Yeah.
And that they're getting to the right people, and like really, so yeah. I mean, I was always curious about all those conferences because as an attendee, you come in and you're like, oh, cool, but like you don't realize what it all takes, and that's why I was asking that question.
Yeah, well, I guess let me speak to that question more because this will also help for anybody out there who works with clients because the same thing works when you have a client relationship. Yeah. If you don't set expectations, you're never going to like the expectations that people come up with on their own. True. And so I kicked off our conference. I have every year. And so I do the opening keynote, and it includes a lot of great tax information. But really part of what it does is I set the expectation for what success looks like for the whole conference. And so for us, and this is true of all the content we put out, we define success, we define value as people taking action. And so I get up on the first day and I say, hey, listen, over the next 2.5 days, you might end up with 37 pages of notes. I don't care. What I care about is what are the 2 or 3 things you're going to leave here and do. Because when we get back together in a year, that's what I want to hear about is the client's life you change, how you change your team's life, your own life. And so we set those expectations. And for me, and that's the same way I feel about any event I attend is, okay, what am I going to do different as a result of this? And so I hammer it home with our sponsors, with our attendees, with our speakers. Like, that's what we care about. We're not throwing a conference just for people to get CE or for people to learn some new dark secret of the tax code. I'm here to help you know what you can leave and do different.
Yeah.
And it's the same when we work with clients. If you don't set expectations of how your client should evaluate your work, they're going to make up expectations that you're not going to like.
Yeah. I mean, that is huge. And it's so true. Expectation management is everywhere, from being a staff person, senior person manager in a public accounting firm, to running a networking event, to hosting a massive conference like you do, to your client work. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, and I also agree with 100% as to like, okay, what did you get out of this thing? Like, what did you like, what are you walking away going to actually do? Because like there's so many sessions, everything is so overwhelming, and everybody's goals are so different.
If I can, real quick, one of the unintended great things that has come out of our conference that I wasn't expecting originally is it's been really cool for my tax team. So we still do tax returns. Like I've got tax preparers on staff. I'm always looking to hire more. And one of the things that any of us struggle with as a firm owner is, okay, how do we actually show people we're doing something different? Because you and I can get on LinkedIn and we can get on a podcast and we can say, hey, I'm different.
Yeah.
But everyone says they're different. And so that means you saying you're different doesn't do any good. And so being able to take my tax team to a conference like this and getting to show them something different, letting them experience something different, letting them get in a room. I've got 2 guys on my team right now, both in their early 20s, great at the tax work they do, but they're young in their careers. They don't feel like experts until they get in a room with 300 financial advisors who don't have the tax background they do. And they come to these guys with questions and they want their advice. And they want their input. I've got people following up with me after the conference saying, hey, can I talk to your guys again? Like, they had some really good things to say.
That's cool.
And so now it's not just me on LinkedIn saying, hey, I offer a different experience. Like I've got receipts. Like I'm actually doing something. I'm providing a different career opportunity. So that was an unintended benefit that I've really enjoyed seeing.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I think that's more and more what those folks, in their early 20s want to do. They want to show, they want to have ownership, they want to be involved, they want to do all these things. At your firm, how many tax returns are you kind of doing, like on the tax prep side of things?
About 600 right now.
Okay. So is the primary is the financial planning aspect of things as well, and the tax planning around that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So all of the tax returns we do are for clients who have a financial advisor that's part of one of our programs. And so we're collaborating with financial advisors and everything that we do, but we're doing the actual tax prep. This is going to sound really egotistical, but I would take it for what it is. I turn away, in fact, I think most CPAs are this way. I turn away so much work every year because at this point, the number of returns we do is directly constrained by how fast I can hire people. If I could find three CPAs I was excited to hire who could come in and sign returns, I could do another 1,000 returns this year. Right. That's my direct, especially since I have this network of financial advisors. They're just lining up to work with someone who will return their phone calls and answer their emails. Ooh. Like they don't even have high expectations, but the tax prep industry right now has set the bar so low for quality communication. It doesn't take much to impress.
Facts. It's true. It's really true. And especially I find myself saying, basically for me, I limit the amount of clients that I have. Again, I also have these thresholds where I'm not going to take a client that's under $2,000 for any tax return. So if you're willing to pay W-2 only to pay $2,000, we can work together. But the whole intent here is less clients, more of my time protected, and I will answer the phone call. Because what ends up happening is people will take for volume, and then you're not providing any real service. You're just doing the work and then are buried and can't get anything done. So I'm definitely with you on that. How many planners do you have versus accountants, CPAs, or whatever it is working for you at the moment?
So we're supporting the planning that the advisors are doing. So I don't have people on my team who are only doing planning. It's hybrid, which also my team really loves, because then they're not just grinding out tax returns all year. Yeah. Like we get 80 to 85% of our returns done before the original deadline. And then, I mean, we kind of coasted into the extended deadline. And so we're spending the other time of the year doing more interesting planning things. So right now I have 2 full-time tax preparers on my team. One's a CPA, one's working on becoming an enrolled agent. And then we have a tax admin team that helps us because, Yuri, I'd love your estimate on this. But I always tell people about 80% of a tax return is data entry. That could be done by just about anyone.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to actually lean into that and leverage that and train people, work with people who are really good at the admin stuff but maybe don't have the accounting background, so that the people with the tax skills can focus on the tax work. So
no, 100%. And I think that the tech is coming out more and more to help that 80% become even more. What's your relationship like with offshoring AI, that kind of stuff? What's your take on that?
Yeah. Well, so I guess we'll take it in 2 different things. With AI, I ask my team really regularly how they're using AI. I mean, most software platforms are using it to some extent or another if you're not directly involved. At the moment, I haven't leaned into any of the tax-specific AI tools, mostly just because I'm just never been the person who's the first adopter on a new technology.
Yeah.
I wish it would go faster, though. Like, I'm really excited for AI to replace more of my job because a lot of it is repetitive and data entry, speaking of really a lot of what my team's doing. And so, I highly encourage it. I remind my team all the time, though, that because AI said so is never going to be an acceptable answer. Like, I prefer my team use like Perplexity over ChatGPT just because Perplexity is really great at giving you references of where it came from so that you can click into, okay, what's the actual source? So I'm all for it. I'm not an early adopter on just about anything, but I wish it would go faster. On offshoring, so just the way that life goes, we ended up with like 4 or 5 years ago. We got connected with some people in North Macedonia.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of a weird set of circumstances that led to that, but it's been nothing but great for us.
Cool.
And so for the last few years, they've helped with all things not tax related. They were doing podcast production and video editing and graphic design and email marketing and all those kinds of things. We have a big team over there. I went over and got to meet them all this summer, which was a lot of fun to get to meet them in person and get to kind of learn more about their lives and their families and things like that. And so for this coming filing season, we'll take the step to do all the disclosures and have tax admins that are overseas. And for me, the distinction I'm making for my clients, the advisors I work with, is, hey, listen, this wasn't for us. This wasn't a money grab. This wasn't like, let me go find the cheapest labor I can. Yeah. I'm not calling some random 1040 mil and saying, yep, just crank them through. These are people I know and trust that we've trained. And the reason we started working with them several years ago is because it's really hard to find people who want to work here in the US.
Yeah.
It just is. And I'm not willing to sacrifice the quality of work I do for my clients because I can't find people who are excited to work. And so I'll go to where there are people who are excited to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is some really good points. And I think, to me, the way I see it is some of the challenges with it is that bringing some of the stuff offshore, you take away those reps, you take away some of that like practice and experience
100%.
of just typing in the data entry that tax prep is all about. Initially, until you get good enough to be more technical. So it's a great tool, offshoring, to have if you already know your stuff. But on the flip side, it's like, is it good? Like, what are you doing to the entry level and initial folks? Like, that's really and the same thing with AI in
same thing with AI.
Sense. So that's really like the challenge where I think the profession will be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I share that concern for where the industry goes because I mean, as much like I clearly left big firm accounting, but I'm not bitter at having spent time there. Like there were definitely things that happened there that like, come on, like that doesn't ever really need to be a part of your life. Yeah. But I got so many reps. And I have the same concern about virtual and hybrid work. Like I actually run my firm completely virtually, which is great, but I also go out of my way multiple times a year to get my whole team together because there's things you learn in person. There's things that you get from spending time with people that you're never going to get online. Yeah. And so, it's this balancing act of like, I need the resources to get the work done, but we also got to be mindful of how we train the next generation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that like, there's so much, there's so much in accounting, and I think so much upside to it. And even though, all these firms get a bad rep, and some deserve it for sure, I do think there's a lot to be said about just getting in there, learning what you got to learn, being a sponge, soaking it all up. You get such great experience. I regret, I've jumped 7 firms, never for money, always for experience, but I regret none of that. Even though at the time, sometimes it seems like, what am I doing? Again, I'm jumping, again, I'm leaving. But, at the end of the day, I got to see 7 different ways of operating, which really were kind of similar. In much of the same, it was like the same thing, just in a different place. But all that said is, I think that there's a tremendous benefit to the profession. What would you say, like, if somebody's like debating right now and maybe they're listening, they're not sure if they want to be an accountant, what do you think is like the upside of accounting right now over the next 3 to 5 years? Why should somebody become an accountant?
Accounting's never going to go away as a needed service, right? Like, I'm excited for AI to take more of my job. It's not going to take all of it. And the joke I always made early in my career was, even when you're going bankrupt, the accountant's the last person you can fire. And so for those of us who like have that need for that stability, which we've all got it a little bit, like accounting provides so much job security. It's wild. And so there's still that need's still gonna exist, which, as the supply gets smaller and the need gets bigger, that means for those of us who are willing to lean in and figure out how to deliver a valuable service, it's going to be a lucrative field to be in. It is.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you're early in your career, or you're trying to decide what career to go into, like, don't let the horror stories scare you away. Like, yes, I have also worked back-to-back 95-hour weeks. Never at my current firm. I've never had my team do that. Like, there are alternatives to that. Those horror stories are real, but they're not necessary. To your comment before about, hey, like, if you're 85% happy, every career field has its pros and cons.
Yep.
And accounting can be a great, stable way to make a lot of money and honestly have some fun along the way. Like, there's a few of us out there like me and you who are trying to break some of the stereotypes down. Like, this can be a really great career field.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I'll leave it off with this question for you that has been on my mind, and that is, and you got kids, you got a family, you got your honey badger, as you call it, job listed on LinkedIn. What's your kind of relationship like with the whole, work-life balance type of thing, and how are you balancing being a firm owner with, running everything you're running, doing all these conferences, all the events, all those things, and being a present father and husband and all that? What's that look like for you?
That's a great question. One of the things that I'm trying to lean into is that it's a constant process. It's not a point in time. And so I think that's what always struck me wrong about the idea of work-life balance, is that it feels like this moment you're trying to achieve, and that's not how life works. Because as my kids right now, my son's about to turn 13, my daughter's 15. Like, life is very different than it was 5 years ago, and it's gonna be a lot different 5 years from now. And my involvement in their life needs to continue to look different. And so being willing to continually evaluate that, I think, is an important piece of it. And then, like so many things in life, it comes back to intentionality. So I very rarely have a week that is me working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Like, that is not what my life looks like. Yep. Sometimes that means like this summer I took, my wife and I were in Europe for a week and a half. It was amazing, incredible experience. I took multiple trips with my family. We took a trip to visit friends in Utah. We were in Arizona. We went and visited a bunch of different waterfalls. Like, we do all these things together, but it doesn't look like your like classically imagined, here's what my work week looks like and here's what my weekend looks like. There are times where I intentionally save things for Sunday, because I'll spend all day with a family on Saturday. Won't even open my laptop. I don't have any work notifications on my phone. I highly recommend that to everyone. So Saturday is 100% family day, and then I say, hey, I'm going to work this first 6 hours of Sunday. Here's what I'm going to get done. And so, but making sure where I used to be worse, that I've gotten better, is setting those expectations. I mentioned before, setting expectations. Same thing with your family. Is It's not that my family gets upset if I have a long day. It's if they weren't expecting it, right? If they know, like, hey, look, summit's in a couple of weeks. Like, I got to get ready for this thing. They're like, hey, go dad. Like, that's awesome.
Right.
But if I don't tell them that I've got a lot going on, and then after dinner, I'm like, I got to dive back in. They're like, oh, but we were going to play games. And so some of it, that expectation management happens with family too. And then making sure we take time to celebrate the wins, especially as an entrepreneur. That's when I struggle with, instead of always focusing on the next obstacle, like taking a moment and saying, holy hell, we just crushed that. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
I struggle with that still.
Yeah. That's really, really good tips and good information, I think, for a lot of us. Celebrate the wins, extra, communicate extra, and you're right, because it's the expectation gap that really, makes it difficult. Because as entrepreneurs, we could be working one way or another 24/7. If you don't put the brakes on. And one way or another could mean actual tax work, could mean client work, could mean social media, could mean planning a conference, could mean lots of things. Billing, who knows? So I respect that. That is some really good stuff. Who should find you, and where can the people find you? We'll end with that.
Yeah, LinkedIn. As you mentioned, I'm super active on LinkedIn. A lot of my content is really intended for financial advisors, but I mean, for especially for tax professionals listening, if you're interested in learning more about the planning side of things and how you can start thinking about those things, absolutely follow along with my content. And then I'll just shamelessly put it out there. I mean, just like everybody else, I'm always looking for great team members, people who are willing to learn, people who lean in and take responsibility, all those kinds of things. And so if anything I'm talking about sounds interesting to you and what you'd like to be a part of, message me on LinkedIn.
Cool. I love it. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to come through, share the insights. I really like this conversation, and I think it's got a ton of value for the listeners. So I appreciate your time, man, and we'll catch you out there on LinkedIn. Keep doing your thing, and thanks for coming on. Cool. I love it. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to come through, share the insights. I really like this conversation, and I think it's got a ton of value for the listeners. So I appreciate your time, man, and we'll catch you out there on LinkedIn. Keep doing your thing, and thanks for coming on.